The New York Giants are breaking hearts this season in ways that I've never seen before, which is crazy because they've been breaking a lot of hearts, including mine, for a long time. The lowlight of 2025, in a year that's been full of them, was in Week 7. Facing the Broncos on October 19th, the Giants came into town flying high. They had just pulled off an improbable win against the Philadelphia Eagles, and while their record on paper was just 2-4, the team's energy was undefeated. The vibes were good. A little too good. This wasn't like the Giants. They weren't supposed to win. Not with wide receiver Malik Nabers on the injured reserve. Not with quarterback Jackson Dart making just his third career start. And especially not against Philadelphia, the reigning Super Bowl champions. But that's what they did. 4 agonizing quarters later, Saquon Barkley and the Eagles were shot down 34-17. If Week 6 had Giants fans over the moon, what came next would bring them crashing back to earth. And what a crash it was. It started, like I said, in Week 7. Coming off of their upset against Philly, the New York Football Giants kicked off in Denver with a newfound swagger. Jackson Dart was the quarterback of the future. Running back Cam Scatabo was having a breakout year. And despite some setbacks early on, head coach Brian Daboll was confident his team was turning a corner. Well, that didn't last long. After shutting out Denver for 3 quarters, the Giants collapsed with stunning efficiency. After a Tyrone Tracy touchdown with under 18 minutes of game time left, Coach Daboll had made the decision to go for 2. Now, maybe this was to make up for the missed extra point in the first half. Maybe Daboll had lost trust in kicker Jude McAtomney. Or maybe it was because, according to Daboll, the Giants practiced this play more than any other. Why that would be? I don't know. Anyway, the attempt failed, and the score stayed at 19-0 through 3 quarters. The fourth began with the Broncos' first touchdown of the game, then a successful 2-point conversion to make it 19-8. New York answered with a touchdown of their own, before Bo Nix scored again, before another successful 2-point conversion brought the Giants' lead down to 10. 4 plays later, Justin Sternad intercepted Dart on New York's 40, taking the ball 21 yards the other way before being caught. With less than 4 minutes on the clock, Nix lobbed the ball to R.J. Harvey for Denver's third touchdown of the quarter, 26-23. All the Giants had to do at this point was hold the line. If they scored a field goal, the Broncos would need a touchdown to take the lead. With a touchdown themselves, New York would have things locked up. Instead, they went 3 and out, punting the ball back to Denver with under 3 minutes left. 3 passes and a Bo Nix rushing touchdown later, and the Broncos had their first lead of the game, 58 minutes in. But the Giants weren't going down without a fight. Jackson Dart proved his mettle, taking the offense 65 yards in just 1 minute and 11 seconds before running the ball in himself for 6 points. Out came McAtomney once again for the extra point. After going 3 for 3 in PAT attempts in weeks 4 and 5, the Giants kicker had now missed 2 of his last 8, and now he had number 3. Had this kick been good, Denver would have needed a touchdown to win. Had both missed PAT attempts this game been good, even a field goal wouldn't have been enough to save them. Instead, the Broncos stampeded down the field, riding a 19-yard kick return, a pair of passes to Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton, and a poorly timed neutral zone infraction, all the way to New York's 21. When Bo Nix spiked the ball, stopping the clock with just 2 seconds remaining, the few Giants fans unlucky enough to be in attendance had lost any sense of hope. They knew how this was going to play out. They knew, deep down, that they never really stood a chance. They knew the Giants were going to blow it. Because that's what the Giants do. To understand the New York Giants is to understand the fall of the Roman Empire. Its collapse, while spectacular, didn't come about all at once. The roots of Rome's demise can be found in the decades, if not centuries prior, when a once proud state fell victim to infighting, mismanagement, and ineffective strategy. For the Giants, it was 2016. It started in January with the resignation of longtime head coach Tom Coughlin. Coughlin had been an assistant to legendary coach Bill Parcells, who made 5 playoff appearances and won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. After Coughlin got the job in 2004, New York made 5 playoff appearances, won Super Bowl 42 and Super Bowl 46. Since then, though, the Giants had failed to recapture the magic of those playoff runs. They went 9-7 in 2012, then 7-9 in 2013, their first losing year in almost a decade. Things only got worse from there, with New York finishing 6-10 in each of the next 2 seasons. By 2016, Tom Coughlin, now 69 years old, called it quits. The day after the 2015 season ended, he met with ownership to tell them he was stepping down. A week later, the team announced offensive coordinator Ben McAdoo as their new head coach. The fans weren't worried though. They still had Eli Manning at quarterback, and Odell Beckham Jr. was making highlight reel catches virtually every game. There was, however, the boat picture. It was January of 2017, a week after New York had clinched a wildcard spot, and a week before they were set to play that wildcard game against the Packers. Now, this game would be played in Green Bay in January, so you might expect the Giants to be, practicing, or at the very least getting ready for the cold weather. But that would make sense. And these are the Giants. OBJ, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, and Roger Lewis flew not to Wisconsin, but to Miami, where they spent the night hanging with singers Trey Songz and Justin Bieber. When they woke up the next day, they met back up with Songz on his yacht, where they took this picture. People made fun of them, of course.
Is this kind of a eye-opening experience for you, how something can kind of get big like this?
Not talking about it.
But nobody really had a problem with it.
When I saw some of the pictures, I was a little disappointed just because obviously they didn't pack accordingly,
That is, until after the wildcard game, in which the Packers administered a 38-13 beating of the Giants. Fast forward a year. With a 13-15 record since taking over the team, Ben McAdoo was fired in the middle of the 2017 season, the first time the Giants had done something like this in 40 years. And, to be fair, they had some good reasons. At the time of his firing, McAdoo was 2-10. By the end of 2017, New York would post their worst season since the NFL began playing 16 games. That wasn't why McAdoo was let go, though. Or at least, not the only reason. See, in week 13, he had made the, let's call it, controversial decision to bench Eli Manning. Not only did this upset fans, but it broke Manning's active streak of consecutive regular season starts, which sat at 210. He was replaced with Geno Smith, who spent a single game getting clowned on by the Cowboys' defense before Manning was named the starter again, making the whole thing seem kind of pointless. It was just a game, but it was enough to send Big Mac packing. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo stepped in as interim coach to close out the season. The full-time job would go to Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. 2018 would be the Giants' best hope in years, for one reason. See, because of their dismal finish the previous season, New York had been given the second overall pick in the draft. They used it, as expected, on running back Saquon Barkley. Barkley was an All-American, a 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, and shattered rushing records while at Penn State. He was fast, strong, and quick-thinking on the field. Mel Kiper, a man who is famously never wrong, called Barkley a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Manning, Beckham, and Barkley. The past, the present, and the future of the Giants, all in one place. They went 5-11. OBJ left for the Browns. Eli Manning was about to call it a career. Barkley was basically the only consistent player on the field. And then there was Daniel Jones. With an arm like a cannon and a stare that could cut glass, Danny Dimes was picked 6th overall in the 2019 draft and was the clear favorite to take over at QB once Eli retired. In 2020, Jones would succeed Manning as the Giants' captain. 6-10 that year under new coach Joe Judge. 4-13 in 2021, a last-place finish. Jones still had his job, but Judge didn't. Entering the 2022 season, New York had remade their front office, bringing in Joe Schoen from the Buffalo Bills as GM. Along with him came Brian Daboll, previously the Bills' offensive coordinator, now the Giants' head coach. Daboll was the 5th head coach in 7 years. None of the others had lasted longer than 2 seasons. He started strong in his first year, leading the team to a 9-7-1 record. And while they may have lost to the Eagles in the divisional round, making the playoffs at all was a major accomplishment for these Giants. 2023 was less impressive. They regressed to 6-11, replacing an injured Daniel Jones with Tyrod Taylor and Tommy Cutlets DeVito. In 2024, though, came the first real test of the Shane regime, retaining Saquon Barkley. Barkley had been one of the few bright spots in the Meadowlands, and the closest thing they'd had to a franchise cornerstone since at least Odell Beckham. So, in typical Giants fashion, they let Barkley walk.
Most Eagles fans we spoke to say they're excited about the reported signing of Saquon Barkley, especially since they get to throw a little salt in the wounds of our divisional rivals, the New York Giants, where Barkley spent 6 seasons. But no one is more excited than Barkley's former high school football coach at Whitehall High School, who says this is a homecoming he could have never dreamt of.
I can get rid of this sweatshirt, all right, so we can throw that away. And I can start wearing the sweatshirt that I really wanted to wear this whole time, Fly Eagles Fly.
Sure, it would have been nice to keep Saquon. Yeah, their additions that summer in pass rusher Brian Burns and wide receiver Malik Neighbors may still be unproven. And yeah, maybe it wasn't a good look when the 2024 edition of Hard Knocks dropped, featuring some brutal behind-the-scenes footage that I'm still surprised made it to the air. It was great TV, but not a great way to start the season. They kicked 2024 off 0-2, then got a win against the Browns, then another, more promising one against the Seahawks, only to lose their next 10 in a row. Let me say that again. 10 in a row. This losing streak wasn't just ugly, though. It was the worst in the franchise's 100-year history. So when Daniel Jones was cut the week after a soul-crushing loss to the Carolina Panthers, nobody was surprised. In Week 17, as Saquon Barkley eclipsed 2,000 rushing yards in Philadelphia, the Giants pulled off a decisive 45-33 win versus the Colts. It was a breath of fresh air in MetLife Stadium. Except, because the Giants won this game, it brought their overall record to 3-13, and they lost the first pick of the 2025 draft. Instead, they dropped down to number 3, using their first-round pick on edge rusher Abdul Carter. On the third day of the draft, in the 4th round, they added running back and human woodpecker Cam Skattebo. Their biggest addition of the draft, though, was Jackson Dart, making his debut start in Week 4 against the Chargers. He also apparently only wears eye black under one eye as a tribute to his favorite character, Anakin Skywalker. Besides that, though, something feels off about the Giants.
This is where the fun begins.
If you haven't been watching every game, you might think that the New York Giants are cursed. If you pay close attention, though, you will know that they are. Remember the boat picture? Since this picture was taken on January 2nd, 2017, the New York Giants have just 42 wins in the regular season, an average of 4.7 per year. In that same time, they've managed to lose exactly 100 games, and that one tie. Now, is it possible that, in taking this photo, the New York Giants were somehow drained of their ability, Space Jam style, causing them to become the saddest team in American football? No. That would still be the Cleveland Browns.
Hey Browns, Mike Polk, season ticket holder. Killer game in Houston today.
Well, thank God we built you. What a blessing for the community.
You are wasting valuable space on our majestic shoreline, and what do we get out of it from you? 10 miserable games a year, including 2 preseason games that I have to pay for, and 1 shitty Kenny Chesney concert.
But if that's somehow not the reason for the Giants' failure, then what is? I have a few other theories. The first is the obvious: injuries. In Week 4, the Giants lost their best receiver in Malik Neighbors. Then, in Week 8, they lost Cam Skattebo. If we go back before this season, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, Darren Waller, Azeez Ojulari, Graham Gano, and Sterling Shepard. The second, more boring reason is that it's just bad luck. Yes, there have been some questionable calls from the sidelines, but sometimes you can't pin a loss on a single person, or even a group of people. In the words of Captain Picard from Star Trek, it is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. But the Giants have also made a lot of mistakes. In Week 10 against the Bears, Brian Daboll called run play after run play designed for Jackson Dart, potentially leading to a concussion for the QB. It was Dart's 3rd time undergoing concussion protocol in 7 starts. One of those earlier times, Coach Daboll had made the odd decision to step into the medical tent to check in on his QB. This led the NFL to fine the Giants $200,000 and a $100,000 fine for Dable himself. The day after losing to Chicago and losing Dart to the injured reserve, Dable lost the only thing he had left, his job. Now, will replacing the coach automatically turn things around for the Giants? There is a glimmer of hope, though, which, I know I've said that before, even in this video. But there is hope for the Giants. With a solid foundation in Jackson Dart, Neighbors and Scatterboo hopefully returning to normal, or normal-ish, and a prime spot in the 2026 draft, the Giants have an opportunity to turn things around next year. Or maybe it's like I said before, and the Giants are cursed. And if that's the case, you guys are on your own.